Hi friends, welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you're new. Today I wanted to show you my updated bralette cut pattern. This is one that I've really just taken a lot of care into updating it for you guys to get better sizing, a better understanding for you, because I know that I get a lot of questions about this. So today I'm going to show you a few different sizes from extra small to extra large, but I will also give you some guidelines on how to make it smaller or make it bigger. But those are the ones that I'm going to be showing you today. So let's go ahead and get started. You first are going to need your yarn of choice. This is one of my most asked questions probably, is what yarn do I use? I specifically use the Lily Sugar and Cream 100% cotton yarn. This yarn is pretty affordable. This was probably like a supersize one that I got. So that's the yarn that I use mainly for crochet tops, like this at least. But you can use any yarn that you want, any size of yarn that you want. You will have to adjust as you go, but I will give you guidelines at the end of the video of how to adjust depending on the size of yarn you use, the size hook that you use, and all of that. I will also be using a 5mm hook. This is just like the standard one that I use for this yarn specifically, but again, I will show you at the end what you can do for different sizes of hooks and yarn. You will also need your other things that you would normally use, so your tapestry needle and a pair of scissors. And with that, let's go ahead and get started. We will be starting with the size extra small, so we're first going to make our slip knot, place it on our hook, and then we will be chaining 12. Once you have chained 12, we are going to turn our chain so that we can see the back bumps. So you can see right here. So this is the front where it has the little V's. We're going to turn our chain and look at these little bumps on the back. This is the way that I've been doing it to make it look really clean and so that you avoid the gaps in the very middle of it. So we're going to turn and look at these bumps on the back. So now we are going to single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So this is the first chain, this is the second chain, and you can see that bump right here. And we're going to single crochet into that bump. It might be a little bit hard. I know that I crochet pretty tight, so sometimes it's hard for me to get in, but you're going to place a single crochet into that bump. And then you will continue placing one single crochet into the back bump of each stitch all the way until the end. So I'll show you again. Here's that bump. We're going to go under the bump, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Under the bump, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And you will continue doing that all the way down. Once you reach your last stitch, you can see this is what we're looking like so far. Once you get to your last stitch, we're going to place 3 single crochets into that stitch. So again, we're still going to go under that bump, and we will place 3 single crochets into the final stitch. So here's 1, here's 2, and then 3. If you are still a little bit confused on how like stitches work or anything, this is a good point for you to place a stitch marker into the second stitch of those 3. So you have your first one, and then the second one you would want to place a stitch marker. So I will go ahead and just place a piece of yarn that I have left over from another project as my stitch marker. You can just tie it if you want. That way you don't lose where your second stitch of your 3 single crochets are. So now we have something that looks like this, where it's just a long strip of single crochet, with 3 single crochets in that final stitch. We're now going to turn to work along the opposite side. And you can see that because we went into the back bumps on the first side, we are able to go into the regular stitches on the other side. It just makes it a little bit easier, makes it a little bit cleaner, and I think that it's a really good thing to know. So we're going to work along this side now, and we are going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch until the very end. And if you would like, go ahead and count all of your stitches so far, and including the ones that we're about to do, we will have a total of 23 stitches at the end. So you can see this is our stitch at the very top where we placed our 3 single crochets. So we're going to go into the next stitch. I'm going to make sure that I go under both of those little loops here of my stitch. Now place a single crochet. My stitches are a little bit tight, so I'm just going to help them out a little bit. There's my single crochet, and then again, you can see our next stitch. We'll go ahead and place a single crochet in there. And again, next stitch. And then you're going to continue that all the way down to the end. The last stitch might be a little bit hard to see, but just make sure that you count. You will have your 23rd stitch should be in this very last bit right here. So at the very end, I'm about to do my 23rd stitch. So you can see there's like very last hole right here. Sometimes people forget to do this stitch, so make sure you don't. And we'll place our final single crochet into that stitch. And so now you should have something that looks like this. And you can see that it really helps to avoid a bunch of gapping in the middle. Now for our next row, you can go ahead and chain 1 and turn if you would like. I won't be doing this. Chaining 1 is what I used to do, and a lot of people had a lot of trouble with keeping the very bottom straight. So I've completely eliminated that, but you can still do that if you would like. But I will not be chaining 1. I'm just going to turn my work, and we are going to place 1 single crochet into each stitch until you get to your stitch marker, to that second stitch of the 3 single crochets at the top. So I'm going to stop 1 stitch before, but you will place 1 single crochet into each stitch, and that does include this very first stitch right here. So it's a little bit hard to see, but you have this first stitch right here. Make sure that you place your first single crochet into that stitch. So again, I will turn my work, and I'm going to place my first single crochet into the stitch that my yarn is coming from. Place a single crochet, and then continue placing single crochets in each stitch until we reach 1 stitch before our stitch marker, or the second stitch of the 3 single crochets at the top. So you can see I've reached the stitch right before my stitch marker. So I'm going to go ahead and place my single crochet into that stitch. And so now we should be at the very top of our piece so far, where the stitch marker is, where that second stitch of the 3 single crochets is. I'm going to take out my stitch marker. And we are going to place 3 single crochets into that same stitch. So I'm going to go into that stitch and place 3 single crochets. So here's 1, 2, and then 3, all into that same stitch. And then we're going to continue just like before. We're going to go turn our work to work on this side and place 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way to the end. You should have a total of 25 stitches at the end. So our next stitch is right after, not this middle stitch here, but the one right above it. We're going to go into that one. Place a single crochet, and then continue placing single crochets until the end. And again, you will have 25 stitches at the end. So I just did my 24th stitch. I have one more stitch to go. You can see it's right here. Make sure that you always go into that last stitch. And there's 25. So now your piece should be looking like this. At this point, you could go ahead and weave in your end. I just kind of weave it through the middle just to get it out of my way. But you can go ahead and weave in your end. And you're going to repeat the same process of single crocheting all the way to the top to that second stitch of your 3 single crochets in one stitch, and then 1 single crochet in each until the end, making sure that you turn your work after every row. And you're going to do that same thing for 9 rows total, just so that you know, in case you lose count of how many rows you're doing, you don't know how to count your rows. You will continue the same pattern until you have a total of 39 stitches. So I will show you one more time how we do each row. So we are going to not chain 1 unless you would like to, but I won't be chaining 1. We're going to turn our work, place 1 single crochet into that very first stitch, the one that your yarn is connected to right here. Mine's twisted. There we go. Place 1 single crochet into that first stitch, and then place 1 single crochet in each stitch until the very top or that second stitch out of the 3 single crochets. So if you need to remember, I have 1, 2, 3. Here's my second one. I'll go ahead and place a stitch marker. That way I know where it is. And I just tend to use a rogue piece of yarn, honestly. So you can do that as well. But we will place 1 single crochet in each stitch until you get to that top one. So we'll go ahead and do that. So I've just gotten to that very top stitch. I'm going to take out my stitch marker, and in that stitch, I'm going to place 3 single crochets. So we have 1, 2, and 3. So now you can see I have 3 single crochets in there. I'm going to go ahead, grab that second stitch out of the 3, and now replace my stitch marker so that I can remember for the next round. And then we will continue single crocheting along the other side. So this is our next stitch right here. We'll place a single crochet, and then we will continue placing single crochets all the way to the end. So once you get to the end, you will have something that looks like this. And you're just going to repeat that of turning, single crocheting all the way to the top, 3 single crochets into that top stitch or the second stitch of the 3 single crochets, then single crochet 1 in each stitch all the way to the end. And you're just going to do that all the way around and for 9 rows total, or until you have 39 stitches in total. So I will go ahead and leave a little spot right up here. I will write it out for you guys. Feel free to pause and finish up your top. So here is our size extra small with our nice straight edge. You do see a little bit of curving, but that's going to be natural. The larger you get, the more curvature is going to happen, but it is a lot less than how it was previously done. So Make sure that once you get to the end, you have 39 stitches all the way around. You can cut your yarn, do it again to make your second cup, and then continue on with your pattern. But that's how you do the size extra small. So we can get started on the size small. So to start, you're going to make a slip knot, and then we're going to chain 12. Once you've chained 12, we're going to turn our chain so that we are working into the back bumps of each stitch. So you can see how the front has these little V's. Well, we want to turn that over so that we work into these back bumps. So again, you can see these little V's. We're going to turn our chain to the back of it, and you can see all of these little bumps on the back, and we're going to work into those bumps. So we're going to place a single crochet into the second stitch or the second chain from the hook. So this one right here that's connected, that's the first one, and then this one right underneath is the second one. And again, we're going to go into the little bump that's on the back. So we will place a single crochet into that. So you will have just one loop here, then yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on your hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'll show you again. You can see that bump right here. We're going to go under the bump, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And then we're going to continue that all the way down until you have the last stitch. So again, we're going to go under the bump, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And then just continue that until you have 1 stitch left. So now you should have something that looks like this, and you have 1 chain left. In that final chain, we're going to place 3 single crochets. And this one might be a little bit tight, but make sure you still go through the back bump. There we go. So now you will place 3 single crochets into that final stitch. So here's 1 into the same stitch. Here's 2. And then again into the same stitch. Here's 3. So now you have something like this. Looks like a little candy cane almost, the start of one. So you have your single crochets coming up from the bottom, and then 3 single crochets into that last stitch. Go ahead and place a stitch marker into that second single crochet out of the 3 single crochets. I just used a random piece of yarn. You can use a real stitch marker. But you want to mark that top stitch. So you can see I have, there's 1, 2, and then 3. And I placed it into my second one. So now from here, we're going to turn our work to crochet along the other side. And this is where you can see going into the back bumps on the first part really helps because it makes little stitches for us to work along on this side. So we're going to place a single crochet in each stitch all the way to the end. You can see right here that this is our final stitch, so we're going to want to go into the next stitch. And it might be a little bit hard to see, but right here, we're going to go into that next stitch and place a single crochet. Mine are a little bit tight because I tend to crochet a little bit tighter, but just kind of get it in there. There we go. And place a single crochet. So now you will just continue with single crochets all the way to the end and you will have a total of 23 stitches at the end. That includes from the other side, the 3 single crochets in the top, and then all the way along this side. You will have a total of 23. So again, I'm going to go into this next stitch right here, place a single crochet, next one, single crochet, and just continue that until the end where you should have 23 stitches. So I'm about to do my last stitch. It might be a little bit hard for you guys to see, but you want to go into that very last hole, that very last stitch, to make sure that you have all 23 stitches. So now it should be looking a little bit like this, and we'll move on to the next part. For this next row, I used to do a chain 1 and then turn my work, but I no longer do a chain 1. You can still do that if you want, but the way that I keep a nice straight edge is by not chaining 1. So we are just going to turn our work, and we are going to place 1 single crochet into the stitch that's connected right here. You can see that there's a little spot right there. Place your first single crochet into that stitch, and then you will continue placing 1 single crochet in each stitch until you get right before your stitch marker, or that second stitch of the 3 single crochets. So we'll place 1 single crochet in each one to the top. So I'm at the stitch right before my stitch marker, so I'm going to place a single crochet there. And now I'm going to remove my stitch marker. And in that top stitch, we will place 3 single crochets all into that same stitch. So here's 1, 2, and then 3, all into that same stitch right here. And then go ahead and grab that second stitch again and place your stitch marker. And then we will continue single crocheting along the other side. So you'll turn your work just so that it turns to work on the other side. And then this is our next stitch right here. We're going to place a single crochet and then continue placing single crochets until the end. And you should have 25 stitches in total at the end. So that includes counting all of the stitches on this side, the 3 at the top, and then all of the stitches along this side. You will need to have 25 in total. So I've just gotten to my last stitch. I'm about to do the 25th one, and you can see there's my stitch. It's a little bit hard to see sometimes, but we're going to put our last stitch right there. So now it should look like this, and you can see by us going into those back loops, you have a much smaller gap than you would normally. And at this point, you can also weave in this end. I just kind of weave it through the middle just to secure it, but you should have something that looks like this. So once you have that, we're going to continue that same pattern where we will turn, single crochet along one side, 3 single crochet into the top stitch, and then 1 single crochet into each stitch until the end. And we're going to do that back and forth until you have a total of 11 rows, or until you have 43 stitches in total. So I will show you one more time. So we are going to turn. We are not chaining 1, but you can if you'd like, but I'm not going to. We're going to place our first single crochet into the stitch here that's connected. And then we're going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch until we get right before our stitch marker, or that second stitch of the chain 3, or the 3 single crochets. So I've just gotten to that top point. I'm going to remove my stitch marker, and then I'm going to place 3 single crochets into that top space. That's 1, and then 2, and then 3. And then we're going to continue along the other side. You can go ahead and place a stitch marker in that second stitch of the 3 single crochets. But you're going to go into that next stitch. It's right here. So this is our stitch with the 3 single crochets. And then we're going to go into that next stitch and place 1 single crochet. And then continue until you get to the very end. I've just gotten to my last stitch. Might be a little hard to see, but make sure that you don't miss it. I'll place my final single crochet right there. Now your piece should be looking like this. And you're just going to continue with that, with turn, single crochet into each stitch until you get to the top, place 3 single crochet into the top, and then 1 single crochet into each stitch until the end. I will go ahead and put the written portion of it right here. So once you have done your 11 rows total, or you have 43 stitches counting along all of this, you'll have 43 stitches at the end. This is what you should be left with. Again, we have a very straight edge, but it does have a slight curvature, and that's just natural. The larger the cups get, the more curvature that there will be. That's just naturally how it works. But this is what it will look like, and that is for the size small. So for a size medium, we're going to make a slip knot. And then we're going to chain 14. Once you have chained 14, you're going to turn your chain to work into the back bumps of the chain. So you can see on the front, it looks like a little V, but we're going to flip it over and work into these little bumps on the back. So we are going to place a single crochet in the second chain from the hook. So you can see this is the first chain right here. We're going to go into the second chain under that back bump. That's what that looks like. And then yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And then again, you can see there's that back bump. We're going to go underneath the back bump, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. Then one more time, you can see there's that back bump. We're going to go underneath the bump, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2. And you're going to continue that all the way until you have 1 chain left. And make sure that you are going underneath those bumps and placing your single crochets. So now you can see I have 1 chain left, and in this final chain, we're going to place 3 single crochets. And we still want to make sure that we're going underneath that bump. So it might be a little bit hard to get into, but make sure you go under the bump, and we will place 3 single crochets. So here's 1, and then 2 into the same stitch, and then 3, all into that same stitch. So now you can see that you have something that looks like this, where you have all your chains up one side and then 3 single crochets into that top stitch up here. Go ahead and in that second single crochet out of the 3, so you have, here's 1, 2, 3, into that second one, I'm going to place a stitch marker. And I'm just using an extra piece of yarn, but you can use a stitch marker. But go ahead and place something into that second stitch. And now we are going to turn our work to crochet along the other side. You can see now that since we worked into the back bumps of that first side here, we now have some stitches that we're able to go into for this next side. So we are going to place one single crochet in each stitch until the end. So you can see right here, this is where we placed our 3 single crochets. So we're going to want to go into this next stitch right here and place a single crochet. And then we'll go into the next one and place a single crochet. And then you will continue placing single crochets into each stitch until the end. And then once you get to the end, you're going to want to make sure that counting from this side plus your 3 single crochets and then all along the other side, you will have a total of 27 stitches. So go ahead and continue placing one single crochet into each stitch until the end, making sure you have 27 stitches. So I've just done my 26th stitch. I need to go into this last stitch. Make sure that you don't forget that last stitch and place your final single crochet into it. Now you can see that we don't have really any gapping, and we can work on the next row. For this next row, I will not be chaining one and turning, but you can, but for this tutorial, I will not be doing that. So instead of that, we will just turn our work, and we are going to place one single crochet into that same stitch that we're attached to. So right in here, place one single crochet. And then you're going to continue placing one single crochet into each stitch until you get to your stitch marker or to that second stitch out of the 3 single crochets. So just go ahead and continue placing one single crochet in each stitch until your stitch marker. So you can see I've just gotten to the stitch right before my stitch marker. I will place a single crochet right there. And then into that top stitch here, I'm going to take out my stitch marker. And into this stitch, I'm going to place 3 single crochets. So here's 1, 2 into that same stitch, and then 3 into the same stitch. So now you can see that there are 3 single crochets into that one stitch. And I'm going to go ahead again, finding that second stitch of the chain or of the 3 single crochets. And I'm going to place my stitch marker into that second stitch. And now we're going to continue on to the other side. So we're going to turn, and then we're going to go into the next stitch. So you can see here's where we went in and did our 3 single crochets. This right here is where our next stitch is. So we're going to place a single crochet in there. So you can see now where I am. Place your single crochet and continue placing one single crochet into each stitch all the way to the end. And then in total, counting this side, the 3 at the top, and then all the way on the other side, you will have a total of 29 stitches. So go ahead and continue, and I'll meet you at the end. So I've just done my 28th stitch. I have one more stitch to go. It can be kind of confusing right here, but you want to make sure you go underneath the 2 loops here. So you can see I'm not in that stitch. That's from the middle. So we'll go ahead and place that final single crochet. So now it should look a little bit like this. There's minimal gapping. I was a little bit loose in some of this, so that's why mine's gapping a bit. But you can go ahead and weave in this end at this point. I just weave it into the middle, and then we're going to continue with turning single crochet into each stitch until your stitch marker, 3 single crochets into that stitch, placing your stitch marker back into the second stitch of those 3 single crochets, and then 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way to the end. And you will just repeat that until you have a total of 13 rows, or you have a total of 51 stitches. So you'll just keep doing that until you have 51 stitches. I will go ahead and show you one more row and then we'll move on from there. So to start your next row, we're just going to turn our work. We're going to place our first single crochet into the stitch that we are connected to. So we'll place a single crochet right there. And then we will place one single crochet in each stitch until we get to our stitch marker, or that second single crochet of the 3 single crochets. So I just got to my stitch marker. I'm going to pull that out, place 3 single crochets into that stitch. So there's all 3. I'm going to go ahead and place my stitch marker back into that second stitch. And then we will continue placing one single crochet in each stitch until the end. So here's our next stitch. I'm going to go into that one. And then continue with one single crochet in each stitch all the way to the end. So I just did the one right before the very last stitch. I'm going to place my final single crochet into that last stitch. And it should start to look like this. So again, you're going to continue with turning, single crochet all the way to your stitch marker, 3 single crochets into that stitch, then 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way to the end. And you'll just do that back and forth until you have a total of 13 rows. And if you're not sure how to count your rows, you will need to have a total of 51 stitches. So I will go ahead and leave the written pattern right here. Once you have completed all 13 rows, or 51 stitches all around, you will have something that looks like this for your size medium. It still looks like there's a bit of a curve, but that's just the natural way that this ends up being, so don't be too worried about that. But that is the size medium. For the size large, you're going to want to make a slip knot. And then you will chain 16. Once you have chained your 16, you're going to flip your chain over so that you can see the back side that has all these little bumps. That's what we're going to be single crocheting into. So the front side has these little V's, and we are going to flip it over to go into these little bumps. And we are going to place our single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So this is that first chain. This one is our second chain. So we are going to place a single crochet under this little bump. So you can see that there's the bump. I'm going to go underneath of it, just like that. And then yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And that's your single crochet. And we'll do that again. Next stitch, we're going to go underneath that little bump, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And you're going to continue by placing 1 single crochet into each of these back bumps until you have 1 stitch left. And then I will meet you back there. So now you can see that I have 1 last stitch left, and we are going to go into the stitch under that bump again, and we will be placing 3 single crochets into that stitch. So here's 1, then we'll go back into that same stitch. Here's 2, and then we'll do it one more time. There's 3. So now you will have this whole side plus 3 single crochets in that final stitch. And then go ahead and find that second stitch out of the 3 that you did. So there's 1, 2, 3. There you go. 1, 2, 3. And we're going to go into this second one here and go ahead and place a stitch marker. I'm just using an extra piece of yarn. So now we're going to turn our piece to the other side. And since we went into those back bumps of the stitches on the first side, we now have these stitches for this side that we get to go into. So now on this side, we're just going to place 1 single crochet in each stitch until the end, and you will have a total of 31 stitches. So that includes from your very start here, count all the way up to this, plus your 3, and then all the way down the other side once you put 1 single crochet in each. You will have 31 stitches. But I will show you. So since we put 3 single crochets into that last stitch, you can see right there, we're going to go into the next stitch. So that's still our last stitch from this side. We're going to go into this stitch and place a single crochet. Mine are a little bit tight. There we go. Place a single crochet. And then again into the next stitch, you'll place a single crochet. Then one more time into the stitch and place a single crochet. And you will continue placing single crochets all the way down to the end for a total of 31 stitches. So now you can see that I am at my very last stitch. Some people tend to forget to do that last stitch, but make sure you go and you place your last single crochet into that final stitch. So that was my 31st stitch. So now you should have something that looks like this. And we'll move on to the next row. For this next round, I will not be chaining 1 and turning. Instead, I will just turn my work. That's going to help us give us that straight edge by not chaining. And then we're going to place our first single crochet into the stitch that we're connected to. So we'll go ahead and place a single crochet into that stitch. And then you will continue placing 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way until you get to your stitch marker, or the second stitch of your 3 single crochets from the last row. So place 1 single crochet in each stitch until your stitch marker. So I've just gotten to my stitch marker, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take out the stitch marker, and then into that stitch I'm going to place 3 single crochets, all into the same stitch. So here's 1, 2, and then 3. So now you should have done this whole side and then 3 single crochets into that top stitch. And then I will go ahead and find that second stitch again, and I will place my stitch marker back into it. So now we're going to turn our work again along the other side, and we will be placing 1 single crochet in each stitch until the end. And you will have 33 stitches at the end of this. So our next stitch will be right here. You can see this is where we put our 3 single crochets. This is from the previous row. We're going into this one right here and placing our next single crochet. And then continue placing single crochets until the end of the row for a total of 33 stitches, counting from the very beginning. So again, here's my last stitch. Remember to go into that. This will be number 33. And so now you should have something looking like this. And at this point, you can go ahead and weave in this little end. I like to weave it into the middle just to help if there's any gapping, but this is already pretty minimal gapping. I've been crocheting just a little bit loose, but you can go ahead and weave in that end right there. And then we're going to be continuing with that same pattern of turning, single crocheting into each stitch until you get to the top where your stitch marker is. Then where your stitch marker is, placing 3 single crochets, and then 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way to the other side to the end. And you're just going to repeat that over and over until you have done 15 rows in total. And if you don't know how to count your rows, you will need to have 59 stitches in total. I will go ahead and show you one more row. So again, we are going to turn without chaining. So just turn your work. Place your first single crochet into the stitch attached to your hook. And then place 1 single crochet in each stitch until you get to your stitch marker. Once you get to the top, you will remove your stitch marker, place 3 single crochets into that top stitch. 1, 2, and then 3. Then I will go ahead and replace my stitch marker in the second single crochet. And then we'll continue single crocheting along the other side with 1 single crochet in each stitch until the end. And then again, don't forget to get that very last stitch. It can be a little bit hard to see sometimes, but make sure that you are counting. And then place your last one into that stitch. So you will continue with turning, single crocheting into each stitch until the top where your stitch marker is. Place 3 single crochet into the stitch with your stitch marker, then 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way until the end. And continue that pattern until you have done 15 rows total or you've reached 59 stitches. And I'll go ahead and leave the written pattern right here. Once you have done all 15 rows or 59 stitches all the way around, your size large should look a little bit like this. It will curve a little bit. The larger that you go for these cups, there will be some curvature to it, but this is what it will look like when it's all done. For the size extra large, we're going to make a slip knot. And then we will chain 18. Once you have chained 18, we are going to turn our chain over to work into the back bumps of the stitches. So you can see on the front of them, they look like little V's. We will be turning over the chain and working into the little bumps on the back. So to start, we are going to single crochet into the second chain from the hook. So this one right here is the first one. We're going to go into the back bump of this stitch. So you can see that the bump is right here. We're going to go underneath that bump and place a single crochet. So yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And then again into the next stitch, we're going to go underneath the little bump. We're going to yarn over, pull through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through 2. And I'll show you again. So here's that bump on the back. We're going to go underneath the bump, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops, yarn over, pull through 2. And you're going to continue doing that, placing 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way until you have 1 stitch left. And then I will meet you back at the end. Once you reach the end and you have one stitch left, we're going to place 3 single crochets into that final stitch. So same thing, we're going to go underneath that bump and we will place 3 single crochets into the stitch. So here's 1 going into the same stitch. Here's 2, and then into the same stitch again. Here's 3. So now you will have a whole row of single crochets and then 3 single crochets in the same stitch at the top. Now what we're going to do is we're going to locate our second stitch of those 3. So you have 1, 2, 3. Let's go into the second stitch of those 3. And we will place a stitch marker. I'm just using an extra piece of yarn. Then we're going to turn our work to go along the other side of our row. So going into those back bumps that we did at the beginning made it so that we now have stitches that we are able to go through on this side. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to place 1 single crochet into each of these stitches all the way to the end for a total, including the ones that we did at the very beginning and these 3 at the top. You will need a total of 35 stitches. So you can see right here, this is where we placed our 3 single crochets. We're going to go into the next stitch. So that would be right here. And we're going to place a single crochet. And then into that next stitch, place a single crochet. And again, into the next stitch, place a single crochet. And then continue all the way to the end, placing 1 single crochet into each stitch. And then counting from the very beginning all the way to the end, you will have 35 stitches in total. So I've just done my 34th stitch. I have 1 more stitch, and you can see right here at the end. Sometimes it's a little bit hard to see and you might miss it, but make sure that you place your last stitch into the final one right there. So that should be 35. To start our next row, we are going to simply turn our work. So no chaining, just turning the work. And we will place our first single crochet into that very first stitch that's attached to our hook. So place a single crochet there. And then you will place 1 single crochet into each stitch all the way until you reach your stitch marker at the top. So go ahead and continue placing 1 single crochet in each stitch until you reach your stitch marker. Once you reach your stitch marker, go ahead and remove it. And then we will place 3 single crochets into that stitch that we just took our stitch marker out of. So go ahead and place 3 single crochets. Here's 1. Here's 2 into the same stitch. And then 3 into the same stitch. So now you'll have 3 single crochets in that top stitch there. Then go ahead and find that second stitch out of the 3 and place your stitch marker back in. Then you will turn your work to work along the other side. And then we're going to place our next stitch, which will be a single crochet into that next stitch there. And then you will continue placing single crochets all the way to the end. And then counting from the very beginning to the very end, you should have a total of 37 stitches. So go ahead and finish this row, and I will meet you back at the end. Now I have 1 stitch left, and again, it can be kind of hard to see, but make sure you don't miss that very last stitch. And so now you should have a total of 37 stitches all around. And you'll continue with that same pattern of turning, single crocheting all the way to the top where your stitch marker is, placing 3 single crochets into that stitch marker, then 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way back to the end, and just repeat that until you have done 17 rows total. If you're not sure how to count your rows, you will need to have 67 stitches altogether. So I'll go ahead and show you the next row one more time. So again, we are going to turn our work to start our next row, place a single crochet into that very first stitch that you are attached to. Then we'll place 1 single crochet in each stitch until you reach your stitch marker. Once you reach your stitch marker, go ahead and pull it out and place 3 single crochets into that stitch. So here's 1, 2, and then 3. And then we'll find that second stitch again and place our stitch marker back in that spot. And then continue placing single crochets in each stitch all the way to the end. And then don't forget to get that very last stitch. So now you should have something that looks like this. And you will, at this point, you can go ahead and weave in your end if you would like. But you're just going to continue by turning, single crocheting in each stitch until the top, 3 single crochet in the top, then 1 single crochet in each stitch all the way to the end, back and forth over and over until you've done 17 rows total or 67 stitches altogether. And I will go ahead and put the written pattern right here. Once you have finished all 17 rows or you've gotten 67 stitches all the way around for your size extra large, it will look like this. You can see it's a pretty straight edge. It does go up a little bit, but that's just the natural curvature of these cups. Whenever you make them bigger and they get bigger and bigger and bigger, they will start to curve up a little bit. But that is a pretty straight edge. But this is what the extra large looks like after 17 rows. So that's how you will crochet these bralette cups from sizes extra small to extra large. Now, if you are any smaller than that, or if you are larger than that, the best way that I can tell you how to measure for these is you are going to take the measurement, so like a floppy measuring tape, something like this, like a sewer's tape, and you're going to measure from under your bust to your nipple. Once you get that measurement, that's how long your chain will be. So your initial chain will be as long as that. And then you will go ahead and do the same steps that we normally did, which is the single crochet in the back loops, and then single crochet 3 in the top, single crochet down, over and over again until you get the size that you want. As for the sizes going this way, it really depends on the coverage that you would like. If you want it to be a full coverage top, then just keep crocheting over and over again until you get the coverage that you are wanting. So that's basically it. I hope that this helped you guys out. I know that my last tutorial was a little bit confusing to a lot, so I wanted to make sure that I updated this, and so that if you are larger sizes, you can still make these. You just have to do a little bit more measuring, but that is the basic pattern that I have for you. So that's the bralette cups all finished. I hope that this helped you guys out. I hope that this updated version makes a lot more sense to you guys and you're able to see what I'm doing a lot better. Especially for my larger sizes, I know that you guys had a lot of questions on how to make this bigger. So I hope that that helped out. Let me know down below your thoughts if you have any other questions. I will also have a written version of this down below. There will be one on my Etsy and on my Ribbler, so you can check them out if you need an actual written pattern for it. But with that, I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day, and happy crocheting. I'll see you guys later.